All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's ILTA Emerging Tech Product Briefing. This product briefing is application packaging from the modern secure desktop, the AppBakery, brought to you by Kraft Kennedy. My name is Luke Schnoebelen, and I'll be serving as your moderator. Our speakers today are Sulabh and Emily with Kraft Kennedy, and I really want to thank Kraft Kennedy for sponsoring today's webinar. For those attendees wanting to know how much fun we're going to have, today's presentation will run about 45 to 60 minutes. And we ask that you submit any questions you have during the conversation into the Q&A box. And if those questions are not answered live by Sulabh and Emily, they'll be answered at the end or offline. Before we start, please know that we are recording today's webinar, and we'll post a link to our website under recording shortly after the presentation. And at the end of the presentation, you're going to get a really fun pop-up box to complete an evaluation. And we really want you to take your time and submit what you think deserves a great rating by our presenters. So please fill that out. So with that, I'll now turn the webinar over to Emily and Sulabh. Take it away, guys.
Thank you, Luke. I'm assuming everybody can see my screen, the title screen there.
Good to go.
All righty. Well, thank you guys for joining this morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at. And we'll go ahead and get started. Just a quick brief history on Kraft Kennedy, just in case you're not familiar with us. We started as a technology and consulting firm back in 1988 with a focus on law firms. Back then, a lot of the work we used to do was more project driven, more of a 3 to 5 year cycle on the different types of technology that existed. But as things have changed over time, we've adjusted to become more operational in the things we do for a lot of our clients. With that sort of transition, we've become trusted partners with the majority of the AmLaw 100 law firms, meaning we send in specialists to come in and help with strategic and specific issues on a project to more ongoing tasks such as server management, patch management, Office lifecycle management, Windows feature updates, things like that. Just to give you a little idea of how Kraft Kennedy as a whole is set up, we're broken down like a law firm. We have practice groups with the depth and expertise in various legal technology arenas. We have quite a few different certifications internally, from document management to messaging to communications to security aspects of legal technology. I myself is in a group for enterprise client management, basically anything that's user facing. So thinking of laptops, desktops, and the components that help manage those endpoints. I manage our managed desktop services group with a sole focus on doing those components. I help firms with all their user facing devices, like I said, and the piece we're going to focus on today is application lifecycle management. To get us started, there's a few things I want to focus on. What you're going to learn today, sort of the agenda of our presentation that Emily and I will have put together for you. When we think of the AppBakery, it was developed out of a need that we had. If you recall, or if you're in this situation where you're doing a new desktop and you're trying to figure out what needs to go on that desktop, you probably have an Excel spreadsheet, maybe a notepad file, something like that that has an internal application list. It's very raw, might be not organized, and that's what we used to do for a lot of our projects. It would take a little bit of back and forth to understand what those applications were. It's a really ugly, informal, like I said, Excel spreadsheet. From that, we sort of took an internal need and turned it into an external, call it a solution for our clients that are part of the AppBakery. We're going to talk about the process of what the AppBakery provides, how it works, and more importantly, how it can benefit your firm as an emerging technology. The question I always ask firms is, if you needed to push out a patch to your firm, could you do it with confidence within 28 to 48 hours from packaging to delivery and have full confidence in it? As I mentioned, the AppBakery was developed out of both an initial internal need followed by an external need that our clients are requesting on how do they manage their applications. At its core, the App Bakery provides a way for us to rationalize applications on an ongoing basis, request applications based on that need. So we constantly are looking at applications and rationalizing them. It's no longer a 3 to 5 year cycle. It's an ongoing cycle because of the way the Windows lifecycle is changing, along with security concerns. Taking that rationalization, putting it into a request, packaging those applications with best practices in mind, and lastly, delivering those applications in a more consistent method. That's sort of the core of what the App Bakery is at Kraft Kennedy. This has all become more critical as we have to focus on Windows 10 feature updates, but more importantly, awareness to security within the applications we use. Because getting the operating system out is fairly easy, but it's supporting the applications that are layered onto the operating system is where the importance comes in these days. This overall process has helped us with our clients to see the importance in what we call get current and stay current. So the idea behind the App Bakery isn't just request and deliver. It's how do I stay current with my applications and continue to evolve as those applications update within their own life cycles. So how does the App Bakery help us accomplish that now that we understand its core? As Emily will demo in a bit, we put in a lot of thought about how to make this a portal for information for many different layers of your IT staff. First of all, the first thing you'll see when you log into the App Bakery, when Emily demos it, is packaging statistics and trends. It provides application summaries, delivery of application by month, along with a complete history of all your applications you've ever requested through the App Bakery. We provide delivered products, delivered versions, available versions, and it's a landing page of a single pane of glass when you get logged in. Taking it to the next level, we have what we call the portfolio management. Again, coming back to that Excel spreadsheet, the old way of doing things, or a notepad file of understanding things. The portfolio management piece within the App Bakery, as we'll see in a bit, is a way for us to understand things that are deprecated, basically applications that have gone end of life. How do you know if it is or isn't? Are you constantly checking those things? It's something we do. What was the last version that was packaged for your firm and delivered? When it comes to the rationalization of your portfolio management, we have a set of 50 applications or so that are what we call least common denominator applications. These are applications on an ongoing basis we're rationalizing. And what I mean by rationalizing is understanding what's new as new versions come out. We leverage the sum total of all of our clients, because you might be on one version, a client might be on a newer version. Guess what? When that new version becomes available, you get access to that information as well. It also supports the ability to add custom products. So if you are packaging your own applications with a mix of Kraft Kennedy, providing applications and management behind that, you can delineate those two and say, okay, these are ours. At least we know what's in our environment. It's also about knowing what you're pushing out to end users. Once you have an idea of what's in your portfolio, we have what we call the product list. It's basically search inventory of every package-ready application that Kraft Kennedy is aware of. It's available on an associated fixed cost per application. So we've basically come up with an approach of easy, medium, hard applications, and the pricing is basically defined by complexity. The harder the package, the more there's cost associated with it. The easier it is, the less there's cost to it. But again, it's transparent, it's easy to understand from a shopping cart perspective. So think of like Amazon product lists. We use a term called 90% complete for some of our applications, and that's because we need to understand that some applications need additional information. Something such as a license key, a reg key because it sets up a look, feel, an INI file because it might point back to a SQL server for connectivity. Things like that, we're aware where that 10% gap is. And once you create a request for an application like that, we know to come back and ask those questions because they're unique to your firm. Which brings me to what we call the application package and request and delivery piece. It's a shopping cart style application. You go in and pick your, check off the apps that you want, full text searchable. You add the applications, it creates a little cart on the side. You hit request, it creates a workflow, which then turns around and provides email when it provides delivery when it's complete. So we then package it based on a request, and you will get notification that it's ready. The cool part about this process is that you can re-request applications. It's something that was we found value in, especially if you're staying current with your Windows feature updates. You might not want to have to reinvent the wheel of what was my core application list. What were the applications I did from 1809 to 1909? This, you can create those bundles, if you want to call them that, of here's what we did with 1809. We're going to 1909. Should we just hit re-request of those applications? If not, you can find the difference and create a new request group or bundle of those applications, and then it creates that workflow. One of the things I mentioned was that 90% customization or component of getting media. We recently added an FTP, a secure FTP protocol component to our AppBakery. Think of this as a form of media management. Media meaning source files, license keys, registry keys. There's an option in there if we need that information that you can go in there and upload it to us. One of the struggles we used to have with this process was somebody would send us a Citrix share file or a Dropbox or a box or a OneDrive for Business Link, and it gets cumbersome for us and our packaging team to then understand where all these source media components are. So instead of trying to battle multiple entry points of getting source media when we need to get things turned around and delivered to our clients, we went ahead and added this piece to our portal. I'm going to answer your question just a second about using active setup for current user settings. That is something we'll talk about when we get to the packaging piece, so just hang tight for me. As a whole, this is what makes the AppBakery the AppBakery, right? We talk about rationalizing ongoing applications, being able to request them, being able to provide a consistent, repeatable, documented application package from the delivery component, and then having the ability to also provide that source media or media management component of what makes the AppBakery the AppBakery. Our next part is going to be Emily actually taking us into what the AppBakery actually looks like. Emily, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great, thank you. All right, and yeah, so to access the AppBakery, you're gonna head over to appbakery.plus. Excuse me. And I want to start intro this with saying, part of the transformation the AppBakery has gone through from an internally used system to a client-efficient application portal is in its presentation, right? So in developing, we knew we wanted not only to simplify the application package process, but simplify how our clients actually navigate through the site itself, because when something is easy, people will continue to use it. Okay, and so if you've, excuse me, if you've used the bakery before, you can go ahead and use your regular, your normal credentials. If this is your first time using the AppBakery, you're going to head over to the Sign Up tab, enter in your company email address, select a password. The wizard will let you know if it's too short or needs additional characters, and then include your name and title or position. Once you hit sign up, you'll get an email to the address you entered above. This is just to verify your identity, so you can just click the link in that email and then log in as normal. So we're going to go ahead and log in. So once you're logged in, the first thing you'll be greeted with is your firm's landing page, which will provide a high-level overview of applications requested by your firm, as well as a couple dashboarding features. So at the top here, we could take a look at, and to say this, by default will show about within a year range, but you can change that and certainly get more granular or a little bit wider if you wanted to in your date ranges. For this one, it's showing us we've had 23 delivered products over the course of the year, 28 delivered versions of applications over the year, and there are over 1,000 applications currently in our inventory that Sulabh mentioned that are about 90% complete or package ready. The chart in this middle here displays application requests over the last year. So you may tend to notice the ebb and flow of catching up applications, say preparing for the next feature update. So here you can clearly see where the effort starts to ramp up a bit and where it starts to ramp back down.
Yeah, this is really important, especially if you're just looking for a high-level report of what's going on with applications. When you see sort of a peak, you might be like, oh, we're working on our Windows 10 features. You sort of trail off of that, and then you hit a point of maybe maintenance on applications or just general requests. So you can say, okay, month over month, we're doing 2 to 5 to 20 apps a month, and then we sort of cycle up as part of a Windows 10 upgrade cycle or just an independent application lifecycle process that one might go through.
Right, right. And it can help your firm to kind of recognize those trends over time and help you find efficiencies in your firm's own application lifecycle methods. Excuse me. As we scroll down, this, at the very bottom, this will show your firm's delivery history. That will detail things such as vendor, product, version most recently packaged by Kraft Kennedy, as well as when it was delivered, and as well as a download link. And so we'll get to a little bit more what's included in that download link on the next page. So we're going to go over to Delivery History tab, which again can be found on the landing page. And I should say actually about the landing page is a quick glimpse. In essence, it is a quick condensed look at applications packaged by Kraft Kennedy, as well as your application's lifecycle trends over time. So moving to the Delivery History tab. Again, similar information has the product version most recently packaged, as well as when and the download link. So I'm going to have Sulabh describe a little bit about what can be found in each download link, which is specific to your firm.
Right. So once you've gone through the process of rationalizing and putting in a request, and we've done the magic of creating the application package for you, it becomes available as a download. We have a process, and what we provide in the download isn't just the MSI or the MST. I think Emily's going to bring it up here in a second. We provide a couple of different components to every application we package. One comes in a folder structure that makes sense. It's going to be app vendor version. So if you download it, it's a zip file, and when you extract it, it will always come out in the form of vendor app version. Inside the version folder, you'll see this folder structure or set of files. The very first one I want to highlight is the Word document. Every application we package is documented. It includes things such as prerequisites, detection method if you're using SCCM or Intune, for example, so that you're not having to think about those pieces of integration. We already go ahead and provide that for you because it's not always just as simple as, let's say, an MSI GUID. It has information regarding what was done to the package. So if you're creating an MST, I think, Emily, if you're trying to share it, it's not coming up. There you go. This is the format. It comes in as a Word document. Like I said, we include what was packaged, basic functionality testing. We provide the product detection GUID, source installation steps. So if you're wondering how to install something manually, we'll try to capture those screenshots all within the document. Knowledge base, if there's something unique about, say you have a DMS integration, integrated app, an app that integrates with your document management system, and there's things we had to do to understand how to get that package. We try to include that. The packaging details. So if an MST or an MSI has parameters passed, you know what those parameters were leveraged as part of the MST. And then at the very bottom, we also include a copy of the installations and uninstallation scripts that every application comes with. If you come back to the folder, Emily, get a second here. We also include what we call an install.cmd and an uninstall.cmd. That's exactly what they are. They're a batch file to do the installation as if it was being deployed through whichever deployment method you're using, SCCM, MDT, Intune, whatever those pieces may be. You right-click, run as administrator. It's a guide for, I need to do a real quick test. Maybe it's a secondary app and you got to get it installed on the bind. You don't have time to get it through the process of, an SCCM deployment because, you got to add a group and it might take some effort to get that deployed. So it's a sort of a stopgap in the event you need something quickly tested or deployed. So we provide the exact same install commands that those utilities would use. What's also important is uninstall commands. We want to provide you the uninstall command because depending on how you're doing application upgrades, you might have to uninstall it before you install a newer version. Rather than having you try to figure out what those GUIDs are, those command lines are, we go ahead and provide that for you. So in the event you want to use SCCM or whatever tool you're using to uninstall it, that work is already done for you as well. Going into the install folder, this is the sort of, those are the source files that SCCM or whatever it is that you're using to deploy these applications is located. So this is the source media that, say, SCCM's distribution point would leverage. So you don't have to suck the whole thing into the distribution point. This is all you would pull into that mechanism to deploy it. If you happen to be somebody moving towards Intune, we also provide, if you let us know you need Intune packages, we wrap them into the .intune format. Again, comes fully documented. You have the detection method, all those pieces that an Intune application would require, we can support that as well. And then lastly, there is a source folder. When we can, we try to maintain, if it's something we had to start from a pristine MSI or setup.exe of some sort, we like to keep that pristine version with it as well, so that if we need to troubleshoot something that was packaged, we always have the original version to revert back to. It's a way for us to sort of preserve a pristine version of the installation prior to modification. So these are the things that are included in the download of an application from the AppBakery. This is a standard process for every application we package.
Perfect. Thank you, Sulabh.
Hang on one second. There was a question. So
Sure.
You provide, I'm not sure the first name, but the question is, do you use active setup for current user settings? It is not our best practice, but it is something we do for clients upon request. Anything that tends to be current user settings, we can leverage group policy preferences is our best practice to push those settings out as well. But yes, we do support active setup for current user settings if that's something that's requested by us, requested in the package. Hopefully that answers the question there.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. We're going to try to answer them as we go if they pop up. So the next page we're actually going to take a look at is the portfolio page. And so while the portfolio page looks a little bit similar to the delivery history page, this page will actually allow you to maintain and manage your firm's application portfolio. So something to note at the top section here, the managed products are any applications that have been packaged and delivered by Kraft Kennedy. Whereas custom products, we provide an area for you to maintain and manage any applications that have been packaged and deployed by your firm. And so coming back to the top here, again, similar to delivery history, does have the product information and the most recent packaged product by Kraft Kennedy, as well as the same download link that is specific to your firm. A few other pieces to note here. While the deprecated flag on some of the applications, you may notice, indicates that it has reached end of life by the vendor, so it's no longer being supported by the vendor, the retire button actually allows you the opportunity to retire a product from your environment, from your firm's environment. And that's not to say you're retiring a specific version of that application from your environment, but the whole application and product itself. So once you retire it, it'll remove it off your portfolio, and it's a great way to kind of just keep it tidy and clean and just make sure everything is up to date within the portfolio itself.
This was what the old Excel spreadsheet used to look like for a lot of us, in that you had your app vendor version, what version you were on, what you were going to, maybe you had a core, secondary, retire, things like that. This is what this is sort of evolved in. This is what the Excel spreadsheet has evolved into, plus
right.
more.
Right, and something to note here is that it still can be, this information can still be downloaded or exported into a couple different file formats, including Excel, for your own, historical references as well. And so lastly, there is a what's new link. There's a latest available column, which will indicate if there's a new version available for that application in your portfolio. And next to, again, the select set of applications that Sulabh mentioned earlier, we have a what's new link. So these are the least common denominators across our clients, in which we provide a couple release notes for these applications that may include bug UI changes, bug fixes, security patches, things of that nature. And so you may notice this provides essentially a single pane of glass to view these release notes for specified applications instead of having to kind of track these down across a couple different vendor sites.
Yeah, the idea behind the release notes is think of it as your mobile device. If you're an Apple Store or Google Play and you see newer versions of the apps come out, and if you're one of those that tap on the newest version before you install it, and you see very high level information about maybe it's a security patch, it includes better performance, or an entire UI change is coming your way. We try to highlight those kinds of things in that what's new section so that if you do come in here and you request a newer version of the application, that you might not have to schedule some sort of training behind it because the UI, the user interface behind it has changed drastically. So we try to capture that, as Emily said, at about 50 or 60 apps we keep track of at a least common denominator set. As you saw, we have over 1,100 applications. To keep those consistently rationalized, it doesn't make sense. So we opted to pick ones that are the most common and go with that route.
Right. And so now we're going to actually go take a look at our product list or our inventory, which is a list of all the applications we have package ready. So about 90% complete. However, as Sulabh mentioned, there are applications that are 100% complete. They get turned around, quite quickly. They might not have any customization qualities to them. Whereas the 90% complete, like Sulabh said, there's about 10% that may require some media or license information that our packagers have to coordinate with our clients. From there, we can also take a look in our inventory for different pricing. It's also a searchable list, so we can take a look at specific vendors. You'll notice that the applications are priced both by complexity and a la carte. However, we do have some agreements that include the AppBakery as part of that offering. Also something to note, even though it is searchable, you may notice there's an application you can't find in our inventory, in which case we have a way to request a custom application, which we'll get to in just a second. Okay, so we're going to move on to the request portion. So we're going to go ahead into request and create a request. And so you can name this request effectively anything. I'm going to do an iManage deployment. But something neat about this is that you can add, more than one application to each request. So if you had something like a core applications list, you can label it core apps, request the applications you need, and then as you need to update those core apps throughout the, the coming year, the next couple months or so, you can go into a previous request and just request it again, and it just makes it that much easier for you guys. So we're going to go ahead and create this request. And so it's not too different than online shopping, which I'm sure many of us are used to at this point. So similarly, you can search. This is a real-time read pull of list. Okay, and then as you, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Okay, and then as you add requests, so you can both see the pricing in the corner here, and then as you add request, it will put it into your cart on the right-hand side here. So if we wanted to add, we can add a couple more applications to this if we wanted to, and you'll notice the price column will show your total. Also, for some applications that require prerequisites, we've already gone ahead and included those in the request itself. So it takes just some of that legwork out of it for you as well. Additionally, we also assume that it's going to be the latest version of that application unless you say otherwise. Excuse me. Okay, and so like I said, if there is an application that you are looking for that you can't find, At the very bottom here, there'll be a link to add a custom application. Just include the vendor and product, and it'll add it to the cart for you.
Yeah.
So once we feel good, yeah, is there anything else you wanted to add, Sulabh?
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. And so once you feel satisfied with this, again, you can add more than one application to this request. The wizard will pop up asking for some install instructions. Once you feel confident about those, it could be
Right
things. Yeah, sure.
There's a question in the window about interlinked applications. To answer that question, this is where you would put something like that in there. So if you're using something like Power PDF and you needed to integrate with your iManage as your document management system, or whatever it may be, those where they're interlinked, if you provide that information to us, that makes it easier. However, if we know that there's an interlink between applications and we don't have the answer when you do put in the request, we can tackle it at that point by simply emailing or having a call saying, you're asking for this, which document management system do you need, or whatever those interlinks are, as long as it's available in the application installation process as an option, is something we can factor in at that point. The more information you provide us in this part of your request, the less we have to go back and forth. But again, conversations can be had with our packaging team to fully understand what it is you need from an integration standpoint.
Right.
Another question that was asked was, can the various lists be factored by vendors? Yes, it's fully searchable. So if you typed in Adobe, you can see all Adobe products. If you typed in LexisNexis, you can see all LexisNexis products. So it is very searchable by vendor. It's by application. It's full text searchable at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going, Emily. There's 2 more questions. I'll get them after you put in the request here.
Okay, not a problem. So once you feel good about the install instructions, any look, feel, qualities that you may want to be included as part of the application, you go ahead and submit request. And that in turn will send off a workflow to our packaging team to start packaging and working on those efforts, which are typically 1 to 2 days, depending on complexity. Depending on complexity. And so did you want to answer those questions before I jump on to the next section?
Sure. And just so you know, when you put in that request, you'll get an email saying that the request has been submitted. So if you happen to come in here and you put in the request and you didn't get an email, let us know or take a look and make sure you clicked on the purchase these packages button. I think Emily touched base real quick. Not Emily. One of the questions was, can you review pricing and licensing? What we show here is fixed fee costs for a la carte. If you're interested in pricing and licensing of other things, that's something we talk to sales. There is a subscription model. We just don't, it just varies by client. So just to answer that question, we can handle that. If we have an issue, great question. If you have an issue with the package, we remediate. Our ideal situation is if we provide the installer, we don't have a written SLA, but a good faith SLA of, if we provide it to you and you've done your testing and there's a problem, say within a week or 2, obviously remediation is there. If we need to work with a vendor, yes. If it becomes that problematic, we can troubleshoot with the vendor, depending on that agreement you might have. If it requires a support contract, that's more on you. It's theoretically your application, but we'll work with them. But for the most part, we don't see that come across that too often. Again, we've worked through a lot of these applications for years, and so the knowledge base behind those sort of issues tends to be more on a firm's customization. So the question is, are we doing something out of band that we need to understand that the product may not support out of the gate? But open to have those kinds of conversations if you have further information you want behind that. Last question on there is, most software vendors put restrictions on how their installers can be saved and stored. I'm not quite sure the context behind that, but for the most part, all of our applications, if they're licensed, we don't own the license until it's provided. So it's just a core installer. Things that are free are free downloads, and more than likely we're downloading them right out of the gate from the vendor site. Those are those that are free. So we're getting fresh, clean installs for those. So things shouldn't be static at that point. Hopefully that answers that question on the storage of installers for clients. Back to you, Emily.
Sure, no problem. Those are all really great questions.
Yeah, great questions.
Right. And so I think Sulabh, something Sulabh mentioned at the beginning too is that not only can you create a new request, but you can kind of view and use and edit past requests. So this is where the naming of requests can be really useful, particularly if you have something like, the 1909 applications, the 1903 applications for each OS upgrade. You can kind of use this to track when you prepared applications. You can also use the same request if you, for example, spring deployments, we know we're going to be deploying them the same 4 applications again soon. We can go ahead and view, edit that, and re-request the application. Just super, super simple, super quick, especially if you have similar updates to applications periodically throughout the year. And now lastly, there are often additional files or media that our packagers do not have access to but are required to in order to complete application packaging. And so with that, we created the file upload section where things like source media location, registry files, registry keys, XML files, anything that can really help with the installation can be uploaded in order to coordinate with the packager. So we created this really neat, like Sulabh said, we've had a couple various ways of coordinating these files with clients, but this is a very simple single pane of glass to coordinate with our clients. Okay, and so now that I've showed you our process from rationalization to requesting, packaging, and delivery, question that might pop up is, how do I know when something is new? And so we have a few ways that we like to push that information to you. So I'll switch it back to Sulabh.
Right. Communications is part of what we do for a lot of, that's part of the AppBakery. We have, hang on. We have a couple of different ways we provide communications. If you're part of the AppBakery, I'm assuming you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
Is that every second Tuesday, sort of in line with Patch Tuesday, we provide a customized newsletter to your specific portfolio. We'll pick applications that are ready to upgrade. So basically you're on a version, there's a newer version, sort of a way for us to push that communication down to you saying, hey, there's something new. Do you want it? Our goal is not to make those decisions for you. We don't want to be in a position to push applications proactively in that sense. It's for you to say, we want this, therefore we can turn around and do it. The other part of that is we pick at random 3 applications to spotlight every month. It's a randomly selected set of applications that, again, is a cause for pause to go look in the AppBakery, to come in there, take a look, and see what's new. Literally, is what they spotlight as we showed. Is there a new patch? Is the patch fix a problem that you're aware of? Again, once you get this newsletter, you go into your AppBakery, you take a look at your portfolio. You'll see other applications potentially of what's new and what's going on. And so it's our way of saying, come in and take a look. Sort of a monthly reminder. The other piece that we do for those that are Twitter users, we have a handle @app_bakery. Every time we package an application, we tweet about it. So if you're an active Twitter user, you can sort of keep an eye on what's going on in the world from an application standpoint from our AppBakery, and that we tweet every single app that gets packaged. Some of it might be, it just depends on the request that comes in, we tweet it. Brings us to Q&A. So there's an old way, there was a new way. We've shown you a lot of different things. One of the things we're here for is to help you get through some of these pieces. Our motto for our clients that we do this work for is to get current, stay current on your applications. Operating system is a given, but thinking about your applications is just as important as you think about your Windows lifecycle, and specifically about application security. One of the things that's in the forefront of the things we need to start thinking more and more about, how do I keep current on those applications so that I'm not vulnerable in any capacity? We open the floor at this point to any questions. If you've had challenges or if you've got a story, we're open to Q&A at this point.
Okay, thank you, Sulabh and Emily, for the awesome presentation, and again to Kraft Kennedy for sponsoring. To our attendees, the evaluation should be available momentarily, so please take a few seconds and fill that out. If there's any other questions in the Q&A, it looks like we might have a couple, Sulabh and Emily, if you want to take a stab at those.
Yep, looks like are there plans to use PowerShell deployment, PS app deploy as your VBS wrapper? If requested, we can. We can support PS app deploy if needed. Our best practice for many years has always been if we can use a native MSI format, we will. But sure, if VB script is not something, or your environment where you need to have signed scripts running, sure, we can support PowerShell PS app deploy as well in a lot of the applications. Again, it's upon request, similar to using active setup keys. If you request it, we can more than likely do it. But it is not a default for us. Hopefully that should have answered two back-to-back of the same question. Any others?
Okay, great. I think that's all the questions. Again, I want to mention that a link to this recording will be available on the ILTA website in a few days. Thanks everyone for attending today's ILTA webinar, and we really look forward to seeing you on future webinars. So have a great day.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, everyone.